It's our time to talk Miami football here on Mark Rogers TV. And to do so, we bring in Cam Underwood from State of the U. So you got to join him right there and the rest of the staff for Miami football, basketball, and, of course, all the sports. But we're talking football right here with Cam as much as we possibly can. Cam, we bring you in to talk Miami football. So what's been the vibe since the ACC championship game, sir?
Yeah, it's been it's been quiet a little bit. We went up there and got whooped pretty handily by Clemson there. Not that we wanted, but it kind of just proved that we're not in that national championship weight class right now. We're punching above our pay grade. So obviously disappointed in the result, but glad to have taken that progressional step to have actually gotten to the ACC championship game. And then right after that, the coaches hit the road and started recruiting. They were, visiting kids. That game was on a Saturday night, and they were visiting kids on Sunday, the day after the game, and have been going strong at that. And, are going to continue on that path. And, as the season is winding down, there's one more football game. But, a week from now, next week, Wednesday, is new signing day, basically, because my colleague at SB Nation, Bud Elliott, wrote a piece where he spoke to a bunch of college coaches, and everybody said basically this is new signing day. This is it. They're trying to have 75, 80, or all of their commits, percent or all, sign now. So yeah, that's a big thing. So it's changing my timeline a little bit, because usually we're waiting for that second or that first Wednesday in February as signing day, and gives a little bit more time to get prepared for things. And it's going to be a little hectic next week for me on the blog side, but it'll be a good time hopefully. So that's really been where the focus has been. And then obviously, with just players, rehabbing and everything, obviously, finals is going on right about now at the University of Miami. So we're going to have more practices, or the bowl practices starting in a little bit, but it's really shifted from gameplay to recruiting. And obviously, like I said, you saw at the ACC championship game that there are things that if you're a younger player, you want to be there to continue, like the young players coming to the game and making plays, but also there's wide open spaces where, hey, we need you to help change some of these things. So recruiting is really where things have gone. And so that's really been the focus.
So I'm going to catch up on the ACC championship game in a second, but you've taken us down this path. So let's talk recruiting, because this class has been primed based on the commits to be a special class for the Canes. Has anything changed recently? What's giving you some strong indication that you're going to stay in that elite class of recruiting for 2018? What's the latest update here?
Well, the latest updates are three. We got a fullback from Atlanta Pace Academy, who's rated as the #1 fullback in America. His name is Relis George, and he looks like my age almost, and I'm in my mid-30s, in case you were wondering. So it was funny. He just committed a while ago, towards the end of the season, and he took a visit for a game. And there was a Miami staffer who's yet to be identified who thought that the player, the high school recruit, was somebody's dad on the sideline. They're like, "Sir, you can't be down here." He's like, "No, I'm a recruit." He's like, "No, you can't be down here." Because like I said, he has a shaved bald head like me, and facial hair and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, he's 6'2", 245, 250. So he's gonna come in and be that thumper at fullback that we need, which is great. Also got two players to flip their commitments to the University of Miami. First of all was the quarterback for this class now, in Jaron Williams, who's also from Georgia, from Lawrenceville, Georgia, which, if you follow recruiting, is the same city as #1 overall player, Sunshine, Tyler Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, excuse me. They're from the same city, but different schools, obviously. But he's a 4-star recruit, was committed to Kentucky for a while, but they tried to get on him early and get him committed and keep him signed or committed to that class. And he actually committed there as a junior before people really, before he had like a big progression the last 2 summers. And so he was committed there and then decommitted from Kentucky and then recommitted to Kentucky. And then as the year went on, pretty much everybody who follows recruiting said, this kid is too good to go to Kentucky. He took an official visit for the Notre Dame game. It was super good, super great visit. He even took Kentucky commit out of his bio on Twitter during the first quarter of the game against Notre Dame. Decommitted the next day. Took a couple of weeks for him to finally flip the last part to Miami, but he did that. And then also with another flip is a linebacker named Patrick Joyner from Homestead South Dade High School, Homestead being exit 1 at the bottom of the turnpike, i.e. the turnpike doesn't go any further south in the United States of America because that's the end. That's where the city of Homestead is. It's down by Florida City on your way to the Keys. But he's a talented playmaker. He had been committed to Florida State. But then we flipped him, and he's going to be our only linebacker probably that we sign in this class at Miami. So, yeah, those three have really been the forward movement for the University of Miami. So there's 21 recruits in the class right now. I don't know if I see that you're looking up some stuff, but there has been some talk that there might be a player in that class who might decide to go elsewhere. But we'll talk about that in a minute, I guess.
Yeah, Patrick Joyner. So he's the 34th ranked linebacker according to 247 Sports. And when you say Homestead, typically that's a name that applies to a place because a lot of people landed there, and that's where they set up shop right there. And that would be the case right there with Homestead, Florida, right at with people coming north. So very interesting there. And Realist George, I looked him up. I looked at you. I looked at him. I'm going to say you resemble each other. That doesn't mean you look alike. That means you resemble each other, and I can definitely see it there. And you know what he is the makings of, Cam, is a fan favorite. People love fullbacks because there aren't that many. So I've noticed in recent years, people love the hardworking fullback that barely gets the ball, but he does all the hard work. And maybe he can jump out of the backfield every so often. They flip him a pass, and everybody goes crazy. I think if he plays and plays well, he's going to be a fan favorite, I think. That early prediction there, Cam.
No, and I think that you're right. He's one of the more vocal commits on Twitter, just like DJ Dallas was, another Georgia native. So he's kind of keeping that tradition alive. And I think that you're right. You know, we had Marquez Williams at Miami in 2016, and he plays fullback in the NFL now, and he was a grad transfer. But if you remember, he caught the very first touchdown pass in the season opener, and everybody went crazy, you know, and he's in there, you know, making blocks and springing the running backs for big yards. So that's a thing that definitely could happen. So, you know, obviously we need an actual fullback. We tried to put, or the Canes tried to put like offensive linemen at fullback in short yardage situations, but they don't have the lateral dexterity and athleticism to really get that job done in tight spaces. So having a real fullback and the best in the nation by most recruiting services in this class to, you know, block for these elite running backs that we have coming in and already on the roster, Travis Homer, DJ Dallas, like I just mentioned, Robert Burns, who, if he's ever healthy, is going to be really good. I just don't know if he's going to be healthy. Lorenzo Lingard, the Gatorade Florida Player of the Year, the Florida Dairy Farmers 8A Player of the Year, and he's up for Mr. Football for the best high school football player in the state of Florida of anybody. He's coming in as a 5-star running back. Cam Davis, great name, by the way, from Miami Carroll City High School. He's coming in as a 4-star also. So I've named 5 guys, you know, if Robert Burns is able to get healthy, man, you know, that's a stable. And if you get when you want to go tight formations and you need those short yardage things, and you can put a fullback in there to clear a little space for those running backs to maybe find a seam or get loose, like you saw from a Mark Richt offense at Georgia for years and years and years, that should hopefully be a win-win for both Realist George, the fullback, and the Miami Hurricanes offense. So, you know, hopefully we'll see that happen. But, you know, getting the kind of players to fill those roles is a big thing for this class.
And because of the way most offenses have gone in the last 10 years, defenses don't know how to prepare for a fullback because they don't see it in practice. And there's only probably, I'm going to guess off the top of my head, 10 to 15% of the FBS programs out there that have a fullback ready to play, ready to line up and be the lead blocker. That's off the top of my head. So interesting get there. And I am all in favor of tight ends and especially fullbacks because they are extinct in the game of football. All right, so you look at the rest of the class, and do you have any worries regarding any of the guys in play that you see other schools creeping in on, or any thoughts about any particular guys that you really like that may not be at the top end of the recruiting rankings that for some reason, based on what you've heard, based on what you've seen, and looking at the videotape, that you like a lot?
Well, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't start this segment by talking about Josh Jobe, who's a 4-star recruit plays defensive back. He can play corner or safety. I like him more as a safety than a cornerback, but he's from Miami, went to Columbus for 3 years, and he aged out of eligibility. So he transferred to Cheshire Academy in Connecticut. And the kid can do it all, honestly. He's a fantastic player. He's, 19 and a half, I want to say, years old. So he's very, developed for his age. I mean, well, because he's older than most high school kids and everything. But it's really down to Miami and Alabama for him. And Alabama's been pushing for a long time. And anybody who's active on social media has seen Josh Job's Twitter feed become very, very Roll Tide centric, very Alabama centric, retweeting the edits and, hey, I'm going to take a visit there and everything. So he's supposed to sign for the early period, which is, again, December the 20th is when Josh Jobe wants to sign. And that means that there's a 1 visit weekend between now and then. And he's said that he's going to take that visit to Alabama, even though he's committed to Miami. And he's not going to go see Miami again, even though he lives in Connecticut right now, before signing day. So there's just been a lot of smoke going on. And if you follow the visits as one of your recruiting rules, it seems as though Josh Jobe is very short for this class, very quick, soon maybe, to flip to another school. Now, that might not be the case. I'm not going to say, I mean, it's recruiting, so nothing is 100%. But everybody who's looking at the situation from the outside, that's what it seems like. So of the commits, he's the one that I'm most closely watching. And, people are going to watch this video and say, Cam, he's gone, like, whatever, it's a done deal. Okay, well, you might feel that, and I'm not going to fight you about that. But yeah, for people who are wavering or maybe who are committed to this class and might not sign, Josh Jobe is number 1, has to be. On top of that, Nesta Silvera is a defensive tackle. He goes to American Heritage, which is where Mike Rumph, the cornerbacks coach, used to coach high school. And he's somebody who's being recruited by a lot of different schools. In Miami is still in a good position with him, but still got to get him to sign or fight that battle all the way to signing day, which you have to do with all your recruits. So please don't take that as me saying, oh my God, like the sky's falling, and I'm not. But he asked who's like maybe somebody that I'm looking at. So if you've read I put up a piece about the early signing day on stateoftheu.com, which you can go look at, and I talked about that with Nesta Silvera, and he's going to wait till January to take his official visit to Miami. So hopefully they can continue to build that, relationship and connection, which has been there because he's been committed to Miami for the better part of a year. So we'll see that. But those are the 2 guys at the top of the class whose commitment I'm watching, we'll call it. On top of that, I really just like everybody in this class. Everybody plays a role. Everybody has a function. If I had to pick one guy who's underranked, I guess, I would say DJ Ivey, who is Patrick Joyner's teammate at Homestead South Dade Senior High School. He broke his ankle in the first game of his junior year, so he missed all that year and then played sparingly on 7-on-7 over the summer as he was recovering. But this is a kid who can cover. He's 6 feet tall, has long arms. People, when he was a freshman and sophomore, made the comparison of him to Artie Burns coming out of high school in that, physical, fast, lengthy kind of cornerback who had natural cover ability. And I can see those comparisons. Now, I'm not going to say that DJ Ivey right now is a first-round draft pick like Artie Burns turned into, but coming out of high school, they had very comparable traits and skill sets. So that's a guy who might not be getting the headlines of a Lorenzo Lingard or a Jaron Williams or a Mark Pope, who should be, 4-star, 5-star wide receiver. But yeah, I would say that, DJ Ivey is a guy that I'm looking at as maybe being better than the recruiting service give him credits for.
One pronunciation note, Cam, it's Cheshire Academy. And the only reason I bring that up is there aren't a whole lot of big-time high school football players coming out of Connecticut, and especially being that I'm only about 20 minutes down the road, I otherwise wouldn't know that, but it's Cheshire Academy, and they actually are one of the few programs in the state that does churn out on a fairly regular basis Power 5 caliber football players. So, yeah, Cheshire Academy, very close here to ESPN.
Yeah, I was, thinking of the cat from Alice in Wonderland, the Cheshire Cat. So I see that, and I think Yes, but Cheshire Academy in your neck of the woods up in Connecticut. Yeah, that's where Josh Jobe currently attends school.
So, Cam, you think that 75 to 80% of this class is going to be signed on this early signing period?
Absolutely. That's, from all the reports that are out there, and, kids who are, even just putting their own words out on social media and interviews and things like that, saying, yeah, they're going to sign. So, the goal for this weekend's official visits, and one of our other contributors, Stephen Adams, is going to have a preview for the weekend visits up on Friday on stateoftheu.com. So be sure you're looking out for that. Most of the kids who are committed in this class are going to visit this weekend. So you want to get everybody, and this paradigm has been different this year for recruiting. It's been a lot like when Mack Brown started at Texas. When if you've been following recruiting for a long time, like I am, you remember this. But if you don't, then I'm gonna let you in on the secret. What they did at Texas was they signed their class in February, and then they had an early junior day. And that junior day was when they brought in some of the top juniors from the state of Texas. And the University of Texas has a special pull in the state of Texas in that everybody really wants to go there, absent from family connections to the other schools. So they got all these top kids in there, and they would commit in March or April of their junior years. So they had all spring ball, and then they would go through the next year. They would sign in February, and they would do it again. So you did the majority of your recruiting early. Upping late, you were just making sure that pretty much everybody stayed in the class, and then you had 3 or 4 spots to select your national players from here, there, and everywhere to try to fill out the rest of the team or that class. Mark Richt in this year has really done something similar with that, because if you look at the commit dates of most everybody, it was way early in this cycle. And instead of really going out and solidifying new players late, it's really just keeping this core group together. So if you look at Paradise Camp, the first Paradise Camp was littered with players from all over America who were amazing talents. And they were uncommitted, or Miami was going after them. And that was Mark Richt's first summer. So obviously that stands to reason. This year, it was really heavy on this commit group and local players who might eventually become in that commit group. Throughout this whole cycle, it's really been about keeping this group together. And that's what I mean when I say it's analogous to what Mack Brown did at Texas. You shop early, you get everybody in, you get them locked in, and you keep them. And you do whatever you have to keep them in there because you have some certainty. So that's really what's going on. So now if you spin that forward back to the question about are they going to sign, this weekend, most everybody who's committed in this class is going to take their official visits, i.e. the last week or 3 days before national signing, or the early signing day, which is your new signing day, basically, because teams are going to push guys to sign then. So you're going to have probably, I don't know how many unofficial visitors are going to be there, because if you're a local kid, you can probably drive down and be there and just kind of hang out because whatever, like that's not against the rules. And you're going to have 14, 15, 16 of the official 21 commits that are taking their official visits this weekend under the guise of we've had in-home visits with you guys this week. We've done all of our work. We get you in for that last time. Friday, Saturday, you leave on Sunday. You got 2 days and you sign on Wednesday. So they're really pushing to have all of the guys who are currently committed sign. They're just not all going to do it. But yeah, I would say the vast majority are going to sign. And you're going to see around the country, that's really what the push has been. And I've seen some other recruiting writers, from ESPN and from 247 and other outlets talking about, the rash of decommitments. Players who are now opening up their recruitment at this time is really in response to whatever school they're committed to. The coaches are pushing them to sign on December the 20th. And it stands to reason, because it gives certainty to the schools. And it gives, the schools have not all, but most of the leverage in recruiting. But if you're able to take advantage of that, you get a signature on paper, that kid's done. So now I am certain that I have Lorenzo Lingard, Cam Davis, Mark Pope, Brian Hightower, Jaron Williams. I know that I have them in my class. Now, between December 20th and February 7th, now I'm taking that Mack Brown approach, the second part where, but I'm taking that approach where I'm going to go and I'm going to select the 4, 5, 6, 7 other guys to slot in with this class. So, I think that most guys are going to sign in this Miami class. And if you look around the country, I would say probably most schools are going to have 50% or more of their commits signed on the dotted line this December 20th. So it's going to be interesting because it's the first year of this new signing period. So we're all going to see how this actually works out.
So when it comes to college football, I'm going to say that I cover it, that I am on it, watch it, read it as much as anybody. When it comes to recruiting, that is not the case. I need guys like you to come on, talk recruiting. I just can't follow it. It's almost like the NFL draft where I want to see the final selections. I don't want to hear about all the speculation prior to, but then I love to dive in the names and the metrics and the stats and the expectations once they're signed on the dotted line. What this tells me, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that these kids would like to be committed, that they would like to make that commitment. And most of them do keep their commitment. And basically, these coaches are writing them and bothering them from other schools that they are not desiring to have happen between December and February. If most of them are going to choose, in fact, at the major schools to sign on this early signing period, they're fully capable and comfortable with making a commitment earlier than that, and rather than continuing to weigh their options and look at different schools.
Yeah, I mean, it really does come down to an individual decision because, every individual is unique. But yeah, there are kids who want to get the process done with. I've made my decision. I'm signing. That's it. There's going to be, some kids, a Josh Jobe, maybe a Nessa Silvera, maybe a couple other kids who say, nah, I'm going to wait and see. I'm pretty sure, but I want to be absolutely sure. And absolutely sure for me and my paradigm of decision making was going to be February, not December. So I'm going to take that extra time, that extra month and a half to be able to have that. Now, where that's going to come into play really is, what about those late rising kids? What about those kids who, there's a kid who I saw play this year, Atorian Perry from Park Vista High School in West Palm Beach, Florida. And this kid is 6'5", 185 pounds, and it was like a 2-star, 3-star recruit. He was committed to like UAB. And I saw him basically single-handedly beat one of the best teams in the state of Florida in the playoffs pretty much by himself. And that kid bet on himself. He decommitted from UAB, and he ended up committing to Wake Forest. So you're talking academically, you're talking athletically. That's a major step up. And a kid like that, given even more time, you have the potential maybe to get to still in a Power 5 conference, but maybe a team with a higher pedigree than even a Wake Forest. So guys like that, for them, because you're hearing from bigger schools maybe now, and they're saying, hey, don't sign, maybe give it a little minute, maybe, let's schedule a visit for January, let's, keep communicating. So the bigger schools maybe are trying to have them wait to keep an option open for the bigger school, but the smaller school is saying, sign right now, again, because it gives them that certainty. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And, like every year it takes all kinds. You're going to have those kids who commit once and then they shut it down because they knew where they wanted to go ever since they were yay high. And I saw auntie and uncle and dad and grandpa, and, we went to the games and da-da-da. And then you're going to have the kids who are like Keith Bryant was when he was in high school, and he enjoyed taking all of his visits, and he was having a party at FAU during his visit down there, to the point where he and a friend of his were kicked out of the official visit, even because he was not taking it seriously, because he just wanted to go down. He was like, hey, FAU is a public schools down in Boca. I heard they have some, I want to go and do that. So it takes all kinds. So you're really going to see maybe some different things based upon the individual personality. But yeah, we're all kind of flying blind here because this is the first time that this early signing period has ever existed. So, obviously you're going to want, if you're a big school like in Miami with the top 3 class, you're going to want everybody to sign because it gets them in. If you're a smaller school who might have a great under the radar player like an Atorian Perry, and again, I just put that name out there because I saw him with my own 2 eyes and that kid could play. The smaller school is going to want him to sign, but maybe the bigger school, another bigger school wants them to wait because it gives them an option in case they miss on somebody who's in their class or who they're pursuing. So it's going to be interesting, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. That's all I'll say.
It creates another level of the supply and demand that's going on out there, and the perceived value by this school, and the perceived value even more so by the particular athlete of how much in demand they are versus how much they can need to jump at an offer versus that they're well sought after and they can weigh their options versus schools that see themselves as everybody wants to play here, so we can pick and choose as we want, versus those schools that are maybe a little further down the line, like a Wake Forest that still plays at a very high level and competes, but wants to snatch up those guys that you're talking about that have the opportunity to go to a more elite football playing school.
Yeah, like I said, it's that's going to be the kind of shell game that's going on because UAB thought that they had a steal in Atorian Perry, and then Wake Forest comes in and snags that. So who's to say that North Carolina or Virginia Tech doesn't go and snag a guy from Wake Forest, and Alabama doesn't go snag a guy. It's a whole trickle down, trickle up economics kind of thing in recruiting. So yeah, there is a supply and demand thing, but there's a lot going on right now. So I mean, I'm getting a headache like right here. Just thinking about it because there's so many moving parts, but it's fun and I always enjoy follow recruiting. That's what got me into blogging and all this kind of stuff to start with, because that's really a passion for me. So I'm really excited to see what happens both with the Canes, obviously, first of all, but then just across the college football landscape, because I think things are changing, obviously, because of the timeline. So I'm really interested to see what happens.
I love the bowl games, so I just hope that the recruiting process doesn't take away from the bowl games, because most of those are already perceived as exhibitions, and that might and will, it's inevitable, will take a lot of the luster and attention away from that process. People are already some college football fans fixated more on recruiting than the actual games on Saturday. That let's finish high in the recruiting ranks. Oh, we went 6-6. That's all right. Where are we in the recruiting rankings?
I mean, Bill Parcells once said you can't make a gourmet meal without gourmet ingredients, and getting the ingredients is the recruiting. So, you do have to kind of, it's both living in the present, which are the games, and then also looking to the future, which is recruiting. So some people like to be on one side of the pendulum kind of more than another, depending on who you are. But the games matter, and Miami does have a bowl game on December 30th, so it'll be a good time.
They sure do, and they played an ACC championship game. And by the way, it's Cam Underwood, State of the U. You got to join him there for the very best of Miami football coverage, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I bring on bloggers and broadcasters that are the very best at what they do, like Cam for college football coverage right here. So I want to take you back, for as much as you don't want to go back, to the ACC championship game. And here's my basic question. Unlike the other sports, one of the things that makes football so intriguing and exciting, among other things, is that it's a one-shot deal. We're not playing a series. It's not the NBA. Okay, we tripped up in the first game. We got plenty of time. Baseball, we got a better pitcher going tomorrow, whatever. And that's one of the reasons why it's must-see TV. It's a one-shot deal. The thing I don't like about it is I think results get overblown. And 38-3 is 38-3. They're only going to play one time. That's what we got to take it for. How much of that do you think, if they played 10 times, was the actual difference between where those two teams currently stand, and how much of it was just that night it happened? Because we know Clemson plays lesser teams than Miami, doesn't beat them by 5 touchdowns. So that would not be the average aggregate score of a Miami-Clemson series over the span of 10 games. No question about that. So part of it was an aberration. Part of it was, Clemson's better.
Yeah. 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. Miami had opportunities to make plays and didn't. There were a couple of fumbles that Clemson had, where Miami had the clear opportunity to recover those fumbles and did not capitalize on that attempt. And Miami, obviously, I think from the game, we saw that the goal was to stop the running game in the same way that Miami did against Notre Dame and Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech and things like that. But Clemson was smart in that they knew Miami was going to load up against the run. So they said, we're just going to go 5 wide and then hit you with this pass. and even, put people in slightly different positions. And that Hunter Renfrow plays in the slot, but maybe not in the same, if you're counting from the outside 1, 2, 3, maybe he played 2 a lot instead of 3 on the inside. So move him around, move people around, and they just maybe did a couple different things schematically in the pass game, and that really kind of was the curveball against what Miami tried to do. So do I think that if Miami played Clemson 10 times this season that it would have been 38-3 every single game? No, but I predicted that Miami was going to lose that game by a touchdown. So I would say probably 10 points or more, maybe 2 touchdowns. And it was funny. I said I went to the game as a fan with a friend of mine, which is awesome. And I was trying to get somebody to run our Twitter account for State of the U, and everybody was like, yo, I'm going over to a party with my friends, or I'm going to be at the game. And most of our contributors were at the game. So I went on my phone. I just tweeted earlier. I said, we're all at the game. We're not live tweeting today. You guys enjoy it. But then I was actually able to tweet during the game because, it got out of hand really kind of quickly. And, I just said, this is a disappointment. Honestly, we're just positive that Miami is not on a national championship kind of level right now, which is the goal for us, which is for Miami to be back. Like everybody wants to know, is Miami back? Is Miami back? It takes championships. So we didn't win the ACC championship, clearly, which then precluded the chance for Miami to get to the playoff and win a national championship. So you need to reset a little bit. You got to see schematically what you're doing. You got to see personnel wise, where you deficient, where were they able to exploit your team and things like that. So, that was it. It was tough, but I hold my head high. They went in there and they fought the good fight. I didn't agree with the choice to kick the field goal at the end instead of because it was 4th and inches from the 7-yard line or 5, and instead of going for that, they decided to kick the field goal and get 3 on the board. Which is the first points that we've scored against Clemson in who knows when, because I don't remember the last time that we played them before 2015. I don't think it would have been a 5 touchdown margin all the way through, but it clearly did show that Miami has a ways to go to get on Clemson's level or where they are currently, because that the defending national champions, 3-time now defending ACC champions, and Miami got blown out. So clearly there's work to be done.
So now it's on to Wisconsin, and it's the Orange Bowl, and it's within the friendly confines. So, Wisconsin Badgers, what was your thought in regards to gaining that matchup in terms of what you know about Wisconsin, what they bring in regards to prestige, the actual football performance on the field? Do you think it's a good matchup? Are you psyched? How do you feel?
I mean, I'm psyched because it's a major bowl game. It's a New Year's Six game for the first time in forever. Really forever. I think 2003-ish, I want to say. So that's awesome. Never been to the Orange Bowl since we've been in the ACC, obviously as either champion or the highest ranked non-playoff team, which is this year's, situation is to get Miami there. So that's good. I'm hype. I think the whole fan base is ready to go and get back on the field. Obviously, last 2 times out, after 13 months without a loss, bitter taste in your mouth, but you just got to keep on plugging away. So very excited about that. Wisconsin, I'm a native Michigander, so that's a team that I'm pretty familiar with and everything. And obviously they were the another team who was undefeated through the majority of the regular season. So people were comparing Miami and Wisconsin because they were both lowly ranked in the college football playoff rankings, even despite being 9-0, 10-0 each, 11-0 for Clemson, or for Wisconsin. So that's a name brand program. It's not a USC, Texas legacy program in that kind of a way, but over the course of the last 25, 30 years, Wisconsin's been a very good program. So they definitely have a name brand that they bring. Obviously, it's going to start with their offensive line because they got some gigantic people up there. They have a true freshman running back, Jonathan Taylor, tailback. Shout out to the guys at the Solid Verbal for that nickname. But Jonathan Taylor is his name, and he plays tailback. But yeah, and he had 1,800 yards, I want to say, or 17 something as a true freshman. So he's good. Alex Hornibrook is their quarterback. He's a senior or redshirt junior, left-handed guy. Not really doesn't really do a lot, but he does what they ask him to do in the offense. And as somebody who reads State of the U told me, his Alex Hornibrook's great uncle, John Hornibrook, was a quarterback at Miami back in the 60s, I want to say, 70s, something like that. So there's a familiar connection with the Hornibrooks because, yeah, like I said, his older family member went to Miami and played quarterback. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, we played them in a bowl game in 2009, I want to say, and they ran all over us up in Orlando for the Russell Athletic Bowl, I think it was. So, obviously want to get a little payback for that. And it's really going to start with stopping the run. And that's kind of been the key all season long. Now, I don't think that if Miami loads up to stop the run against Wisconsin, I don't think Wisconsin will be able to open it up by throwing in the same way that Clemson did. But they might try a little bit of that. And obviously, last game of the year, you're going to not necessarily empty everything from the playbook. If you need like a championship 2-point conversion play for like that one time in your life that you're going to run it, you're probably going to keep that play tucked away in a safe place. But pretty much everything else is on the board. And that means the defense has to be ready for it. And I'm excited to see what the offense is going to do now to really open it up. And hey, we're going to do a couple different things because you have for Miami, there's 12 games of film, and for Wisconsin, there's 13 games of film. So you are on film of who you're going to be. So, yeah, I think I'm excited for it. The fan base is excited for it, and we're going to show out because, like you said, it's at our home stadium at Hard Rock Stadium, which is, surface streets around the corner from where I actually live. So I don't even hop on the freeway when I go to games, but people are going to be out there. And I was talking with some people at work who are fans of other teams that don't even or did not make a bowl game. University of Florida, hey, what's up? But they said that they're going to get a parking pass just to go tailgate the whole entire time. And they're excited just even living down here, being close to that kind of atmosphere. So I think it's going to be a good time. And, hopefully Miami gets things back right and gets a win and, goes into the rest of the recruiting and offseason on a high note.
I believe one of only 2 non-playoff games with 2 top 10 teams on the same field, number 6 versus number 10. Wisconsin was built as a football program under Barry Alvarez, took them to the Rose Bowl in 1993 when they had decades of losing teams. And then he established what Cam basically outlined right there, is not one of the upper crust at the very top of the heap blue bloods of college football, but they're on that next level. They are typically in the top 15 in the country, and they have been there for about 20 years, just about every year. Yes, they typically, not this year, but typically lose their 2 or 3 games, 9-3, 10-3, 11-2 kind of seasons, top 15 program. And basically, this is the conveyor belt and the cookie cutter team that you see from Wisconsin just about every year. A bruising player at running back, Monte Ball, James White, John Clay, Ron Dane going way back. This is the latest. Michael Taylor, 1,800 yards rushing, can really run it, fast, dynamic back. Got into the Heisman race on the periphery. The offensive line, most of them are going to go to the NFL, corn-fed, and they really bring it and love to plow ahead. And limited offensively, really good tight end, and Troy Fumagalli, one of the best in the nation. But on the outside, the periphery, good players, not elite players. That's what knocks them back from being at the upper portion of the nation. Typically, they don't have the dynamic quarterback. They don't have the playmakers on the outside on offense. Defensively, they're really good, but maybe not upper echelon talent. They develop players. They have recruiting classes that aren't going to rank with the Miamis. They get recruiting classes of 25 to 35 in the nation. Then they develop these kids. So most of the guys you're going to see on the field playing impact roles are going to be, outside of Taylor and a few other guys, are going to be juniors and seniors because they develop the talent. Front 7 on defense is going to be in the right spots at the right time. They may get out. They may get beat to a corner or an edge because they're not athletically quite at that level, but they will churn out NFL defensive players as well. Not the rate of Miami and some other teams that we could name, but maybe a little limited at cornerback in regards to just dynamic athletes, very good players, but that's where you'll see the difference between a Clemson game versus taking on Wisconsin. Miami can take advantage if they play it right with some athleticism advantages over the Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah, I agree with that. Pretty much chapter and verse. Except for Jonathan Taylor. I think you said Michael Taylor on that one. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, I mean, Troy Fumagalli at tight end, which means, the linebackers are going to have to play well. Miami's front seven is going to have to play really well because Wisconsin's offensive line is annually the largest in the NCAA. And they always compare favorably or larger than many NFL offensive lines. This is the size that they have up front. Their defense is, they're sound, they fly around to the ball and everything. But yeah, they're going to have those older guys. Miami's playing a lot of freshmen and sophomores because you can get that elite talent in there and, put it in and say, okay, cool. Like, you guys go, like, right now. Wisconsin, like you said, they're going to develop a little bit more. But yeah, and Miami has to take advantage of the opportunities. I mean, even against Clemson, you ran what was that, the Wildcat or the Cowboy package with DJ Dallas, Dallas Cowboys. That was interesting. A friend of mine came up with that one. So you run the Cowboy package, boom, boom, boom. Then you finally have that trick play where you get the quarterback coming in. You have a double move with Jeff Thomas, who's one of the fastest players in America, wide open, and then you don't hit him. And that could have, that was a touchdown. And it was only a 7-0 game then. So it could have been, 7-7, like really early in that game. Well, no, there was a different one that they missed him on, and then they missed him again. So they missed Jeff Thomas twice. One when it was 7-0, and one was like 31-0, I want to say, Clemson in the ACC championship game. But you had to hit those plays. Same thing against Wisconsin. Like, I'm not going to say Wisconsin's on Clemson's level because I don't think that they are, but again, like you're talking about, Miami, to be successful, has to take advantage when the athleticism or when the athletic advantage is there. When you have a guy on a double move or on a straight go or whatever, a guy gets open in space. You got to put the ball on him. And that comes back to Malik Rozier, who's really struggled these last couple of games because teams are forcing him to hit throws. And Miami's offensive line is not good enough to overcome a 9-man box, which is what Clemson did. They walked all the safeties down and said, hit a throw and we'll back off. And he didn't. So, I mean, that's really what it's going to come down to, or that's a major factor. It won't be the only thing it comes down to, but that's going to be a huge thing because just plain and simple, Wisconsin does not have the athletes that Miami does. And just talking on pure athleticism and speed. Now, they do have size and strength, but they can't run with us. So it's going to really take Miami hitting on those plays when the advantage is there to really put numbers on the scoreboard. But, hopefully that'll happen in 17 days from now.
Clemson might be the best team in college football. We'll see over the next 17 plus days. Miami, Wisconsin, I think they're in that 5 to 15 range. I think a lot of teams closely bunched as always. I think it's fair to say that both of those teams are within that range. So it should be an entertaining and close game. Miami would more likely be the team to take advantage of what you're talking about to make it a blowout game, but I would expect a close game. But if it was a blowout, it would favor the Canes utilizing that speed to make big plays and take it to the house a number of times. All right, Cam, what we got here is 2009. You're right on the mark. I actually remember watching this game. Wisconsin wins over Miami 20-14 in the old Champs Sports Bowl, which is exactly the same bowl as you mentioned, the Russell Athletic. They just changed the name. And the very next season was the last time that the Canes took on Clemson. 30-21, Miami wins at Clemson on October 2nd en route to a 7-6 season.
Yeah, well,
there you had it.
The old noggin is still working, so I was right about the bowl. I didn't remember the Clemson game. I just knew that it had been a while since before 2015. But yeah, that seems to work. So yeah, Clemson is a really, really good team. And if there's a better team than them in college football, boy, that team is really good. But Miami's not there yet, but hopefully we'll be. And the first step to getting all the way back there is the Orange Bowl on December the 30th. So let's go Canes and beat Wisconsin.
He is Cam Underwood, State of the U. Please join him there for the very best in Miami football coverage. Also, basketball season underway. From what I understand, the Canes are ranked and ready to roll in the ACC. And we get Cam on here as much as possible to mix it up concerning Miami and the ACC, and does a great job setting us straight on Miami football. Cam, we appreciate the time. Always welcome, and hopefully we can have you back before the bowl game.
Yeah, it's a good time. I don't know if I'll be available next week, Wednesday, because it's new signing day, so I'll be typing my little fingers off on this computer of mine. But like I said, it's always good to be here, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.